This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
I want to make it clear that the views expressed by our hosts are not considered the official stance of MBR Views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Tracer Round Podcast. A tracer round is a type of ammunition designed to help visually track the path of rounds fired. Tracers show where you need to adjust or redirect fire. Join Army veteran Sergeant First Class Terry Lynch for Tracer Rounds, the first ever podcast of its type. Whether it be military, music, sports, politics, education, relationships, or gender issues, no target is off limits or out of bounds. Are you on target? Does your fire need to be recalibrated? Whether you adjust fire or fire for effect, tune in to Tracer Rounds, where the range is always open and there are rounds going down range.
Hi, welcome back to MBR, and you're in the Tracer Rounds podcast tonight, and we have Jason Nunez with us in the studio, and he is, he and I go back a little ways. We were in a unit together, and he has his own business, and I'm super excited to talk to him about that tonight. But what I really want to talk about, first of all, is his military service. So welcome, Jason. Tell us a little bit about your military service, what rank you were, how many years of service, where you were assigned, what your favorites are of your military service.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry. And I appreciate the invite to be on here with your guests, with your audience. I am a 20-year Air Force veteran. I started out of the Charlotte, North Carolina MEPS and went through basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas in February of 2001. And after that, the journey started at basic training. So I went in open general, and it was right after September 11th. And going in open general, it basically you choose your job while at boot camp, while at basic training. So the first time that we met with a career counselor, they were like, security forces is open. I was like, great, this is going to be a very short enlistment because I do not want to be a cop. Props to the cops, props to security forces, military police. I give you all the props. Not for this guy. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we go back to basic training, come back again, and they knock on the door. Literally, Terry, as my pen was on the paper. And they said, chaplain assistant became available. And I dropped that pen so far. I was like, I don't know what it is, but what's a chaplain assistant? So then they told me what the chaplain assistant was, a chaplain administrator, the administrative part of it, the faith-based recognition and respect, dignity, that provide for of our First Amendment right. And it made me reflect on my childhood because growing up in a very Roman Catholic Hispanic family, If you weren't home, then you were at school or at church. And if
Right.
you weren't at home, school, or church, you should be with family because that's pretty much the four places you were at. Because basically our friends and family all gathered in somebody's house. We did have the outside schoolyard games and fun, but it was a very family centric. I
Yeah.
never back to basic training. I go back to see the career counselor. We do the chaplain assistant, and then I graduate. I go to Montgomery, Alabama, to tech school, technical training, and there learned about what the 5RO AFSC Air Force Specialty Code was. Fell in love with the career field,
Yeah.
and then from tech school is when you get your first assignment. Well, again, September 11th, a lot going on overseas. Our training instructor, military training instructor, comes and tells us all of you are going to get assignments overseas. So just be ready to get us into that mindset of overseas. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, great. Where am I going to end up? Is it Korea? Is it like Germany? Is it Italy? It was Hickam Air Force Base in Honolulu, Hawaii. Somebody had to do it. As my first assignment living in the dorms in Hawaii,
Nice.
all the meals paid for, housing paid for. I was literally on vacation, blessed from above to get that as my first duty station. So fast forward, I went from Afghanistan, from Hickam Air Force Base. I got stationed at Travis Air Force Base in Sacramento, Los Angeles Air Force Base. I went all the way up to Joint Base Lewis McChord. And then from there, I jumped all the way across the states to Joint Base McGuire Dick Lakehurst in Jersey. And
Wow.
from there, I deployed to Afghanistan. When I was in Afghanistan, I had a visit from the chief of chaplains. And with the chief of chaplains was the chaplains for the programs. And the senior NCO came to me and they go, do you have any plans for after this assignment? And I'm like, well, go back home. Like at that point, I was a reservist. And I was like, go back home and go back to my civilian job. And they said, well, do you have an opportunity? Do you have the bandwidth to take on a 365 assignment, 365 days? And I said, sure. And I was like, sure, where is it? Like, I'm thinking I'm going to go back to LA or Travis. And they're like, it's at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
E5 staff sergeant going to the Pentagon. I was terrified.
All
Like,
right.
talk about seeing stars. And just as an E5, I got really acquainted with rank super quick.
Right.
And then the joint environment. So my military career got to the Pentagon as an E5. I left as an E8.
Wow.
So I was there for quite some time, of which then I ended up promoting myself out of a role there, and I ended up at United States Southern Command in Florida. Well, that was an amazing assignment. I met some amazing humans while there in the joint environment. Turkey. Sorry for Scott Lynch. And that between the Pentagon was cool. I'm not gonna lie, the Pentagon was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would have to say that my favorite assignments was Hawaii
Yes.
and Florida and Doral, because it opened my eyes to something very, very the freedom that happened while I was in Hawaii, the freedom to live there on the government dime. Like, they were paying for housing and 5 meals, and tell me, midnight chow. Those omelets and the DFAC at midnight chow were amazing. Then basically, as a chaplain assistant with all the youth activities and the young adults and the young airmen, I was on a perpetual vacation for about 4.5, 5 years while I was stationed there.
That's awesome.
Fast forward to the freedom of being in Florida, a reservist in Doral, living in Miami, and just being able to commute, and just the freedom to explore the Southern Hemisphere, of which I'm familiar with, but I got to learn in more depth because of the role that we had at Southern Command.
Yeah.
Hispanic, I can tell you about Cuba. I can tell you about Gitmo. I can tell you about Puerto Rico. I learned a lot about Honduras. I learned a lot about Colombia and the other countries in South America that
Right.
really expanded my horizon. So those would be my two assignments. In January 13th, 2021, I retired from the United States Air Force as an E8 Senior Master Sergeant.
Nice.
And I have no regrets. And just the other day, I got a memory on Facebook because, they like to stalk you.
Right.
I got a memory on Facebook, and it was when I was in E2.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, wow, who's that guy? So good times in the military. I absolutely love it. And here I am, 20 years later.
So what would you say is your biggest takeaway from the military?
One is the diversity. The diversity, in retrospect, I would say the diversity. Being able to meet people where they're at from the different cultures, the different faith group, and a lot of that was around being a 5RO, being a chaplain assistant,
Mhm.
being in that realm of vulnerability and crisis, and being able to be that human connection. I absolutely loved being a chaplain assistant, and in retrospect, I would say the diversity. I think one of the things that ultimately I still live by and kind of take with me now is the discipline.
Yeah.
There is a level of discipline, psychologically, physically, emotionally, that it's just ingrained in you.
Yeah.
So much to the point I'm, out a veteran 3 years later, and people are still like, "Oh, that's the military in you. That's the military in you." And I was like, come to think about it, yeah, I mean, that is the military in me, and it's one of those things. So discipline and diversity are definitely two things that I take away from my years in service.
Yeah, I think I have to say the same thing. I mean, I I'm not a chaplain's assistant, but I got to work with the cool kids, so, I consider myself quasi sort of on the team. Um, but I would say you're right. I mean, because you meet all kinds, and there's all backgrounds, all ethnicities, all cultures. Like, I mean, there's so much that you find just in the service, and then those that you work partner with the other nations and all their diversity. I mean, because you have that component too, not just our own mix of folks, but we have diversity that exists in those other cultures that we serve and work in partnership with. So I have to agree with that, definitely.
Absolutely. And then one of the things to highlight from that is, I grew up Roman Catholic, Hispanic family, but even so, like the Catholic faith, Christianity is so broad that as we were doing the reach out to our partner nations in South America, um, just the different vernaculars of Catholicism throughout South America was so interesting and so fascinating. How everyone celebrates in their own way, but using the same text and using the same songs and the same form, but in their cultural expression. And it just made it that much more intimate and that much more, the appreciation was deeper there. So, yes,
Yeah.
diversity for sure.
Definitely cool. Well, so and the reason I wanted to bring him on here tonight was to hear his story. So we did hear that part, but I also want to talk about his business. So Jason has a business called Go Digital Hero. And so I want to hear how you decided to start that. What's behind the name, and how did you put it together? Like what were your thoughts when you started creating this business?
Yeah, so Go Digital Hero is a US based virtual assistant company. One of the things that grounded me to start the business was a move following my husband to Miami, Florida. So, as I had mentioned earlier, I was at the Pentagon, and being in DC is kind of administrative bureaucracy to the max.
Right.
While I was there for about 6 years, I was involved with nonprofits, private sector, government contracts, federal employee. I was in and out of uniform, serving at the Pentagon at different levels. And one of the common denominators was everyone did administrative work differently. So when my husband had an opportunity to move to Florida, we moved to Florida, and I got there and I was like, there's no White House here. There's no State Department here. So what am I going to do?
Right.
After, of course, decompressing from Washington, D.C., I took about 2 months and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own business. And that was during COVID. So there was also the flip in the administration. And I started reaching out to some of the political appointees that I had worked with previously, both at the State Department and at the White House. And I was like, hey, you know, I'm wanting to start an administrative assistant company. Would you be open to letting me join you in your journey as you transition out of political appointment into your own business? Because a lot of them were starting to found businesses or nonprofits themselves.
Yeah.
To this day, I have one client who's been with me since day one, 4 years later. So that's kind of where it happened. 3 months into working, I was like, okay, this isn't a hobby anymore. This is like a legit gig. So I have to form it and get legal. So in Florida, I started messing with, what's the LLC process and the government work. And then my husband and I started thinking about, how do we come up with a name? And we wanted a play on digital because of it being 100% virtual, but we didn't want to use virtual assistant because we didn't want to be affiliated with sending information overseas, because at that time, virtual assistant work, Indonesia, South Africa, Philippines, everything was kind of being offshore. So we wanted to be a little separate. So then we came up with Go Digital Hero, a play on both of us. One, uniform, Air Force. With him, people would say, oh, you're my hero to him at work. So we kind of combined it all, and there came Go Digital Hero. So that's how the name came up. The logo, if you look closer or search it up, it's a half of a face with a laptop. So the laptop is the hero part, the digital work. And then the face, we both have glasses, so that's in the middle. And my husband has the swooping hair. I don't. So that part of it is him. The glasses are both of us. And then the laptop is my part of the job. So that's how we came up with Go Digital Hero.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we're going to need to take a quick break. So we want to hear about how you work and how people contact you. And we just want to hear about all the business. So we're going to play a song by Dawson Edwards, and it's called Can't Help It. And Dawson Edwards is a songwriter from Nashville who writes for veterans with Operation Song. So we're going to play his music. So he's an up and comer, and he writes music for military veterans. So if you're ever interested in a song by Operation Song, he may be your writer. So we're going to listen to him, and then we'll come back with Jason.
Sip of cold beer from my old man when I was 8 years old. He taught me to cheer for Earnhardt when he put the 24 in the wall. Cane poles popping, cats pulling up a truck line off a no-name road. I can try to change, but I already know I can't help it if my draw's a little too strong. I was raised on cranking up a country song. I was born and bred on a little cornbread in my backwoods style's homegrown. was 10 with a 4-speed on the floor. And that brake barrel 410 broke in, shooting them coke cans off the porch. Sitting out back, throwing gas on a pine pallet fire with a little bit of smoke. I can try to change, but I already know I can't help it if my draw's a little too strong. I was raised on cranking up a country song. I was born and bred on a little cornbread and my backwoods style's homegrown. You might think I'm wild and reckless. I can't help it. I can't help if I stomp my boots too hard on a Friday night. I can't help if I throw my hands on some loudmouth in a bar fight. You might think I'm a wild ass redneck. I can't help it. I can't help it. I can't help it if my draw's a little too. I was raised on cranking up a country song. I was born and bred on a little cornbread and my backwoods style's homegrown. You might think I'm wild and reckless. I can't help it. I can't help it. Lord, I can't help it.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds. I'm Terry, your host, and I have with me Jason Nunez, and he is with Go Digital Hero. And we were just starting to talk about his business and starting to talk about how he developed his business model. But why do you do what you do? What is your what is the reasoning behind your digital assistant business?
Yeah, Terry. So serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I was a Catholic, Hispanic, queer man trying to discover himself. And as my journey continued and I started finding my true and authentic self, but serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I had to be Airman Nunez to almost differently to almost every person that I met. Airman Nunez to my coworkers, Airman Nunez to other people in the dorms, Airman Nunez to my family, Airman Nunez to myself. Who was I? So fast forward, Don't Ask, Don't Tell gets repealed. And the interesting part of my journey is that I was in a country where being LGBT could get you murdered and beheaded. Yet it was while in that country that the United States repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And it was in the very moment, the sense of pride that I felt and that freedom of I can be who I am when I go back home. I can be who I am here because I'm on a military installation and now it's welcomed. So that freedom that I experienced is something that I want others to experience. I want others to feel it. I want others to live it. So one of the ways that I do that is through Go Digital Hero. We take on those time-consuming, tedious administrative tasks to be able to provide freedom to our clients. Whether that means Friday night, you make it to date night with your spouse. Saturday morning, you make it to soccer practice, not grogged over because you've been cleaning out emails all night. Making it to dance recital, or actually leaving work at an appropriate hour. or if you're working from home, stepping away from the desk. So what we find and what we do the most is a lot of inbox management. And what we found is that the inbox is truly the funnel of most and all businesses. It is in the inbox that you get communication, you get invoices, you get bills,
Yeah.
you pay bills through your email, you schedule, you do confirmations. I can keep going. And if your inbox is clogged, if your funnel is clogged, very few things are going to get through. Exactly. I bet everybody's raising their hands too.
Right.
And what we do is we come in and we, through a collaborative consumption model, take care of your inbox. We organize it in a way that when you look at your inbox, you know exactly what your deliverables are. You don't have to filter through the PetSmart and the Bed Bath and Beyond and the Bath and Body Works and all these other coupons and mail lists that over the years we've all subscribed to.
Yes.
And we get it. And in the midst of all of that, you have a lead. You have a lead, a contract opportunity. You have an opportunity to be on an amazing podcast with an amazing human and an amazing audience. Like, you don't want that to get lost. So we work on a collaborative consumption model, meaning we integrate with your business and we are assistant act. So we are your hero. Behind the curtain is my entire team. And you get the entire engine room along with being a client of Go Digital Hero. So I have folks who are specialized in social media, graphics, in writing, in accounting. I just onboarded someone who's going to start helping me out with my QuickBook clients. And you don't need to know if you sent your task to Jason or Jacob or Jonathan or Jalissa. You just need to know that you sent it to your hero.
Right.
On our end, we use a task management tool that the tasks come in and we delegate. Some of my heroes are primary on some of the tasks, but what we don't want is for you to have to worry about, is it getting done? How long is it going to take to get done? And who's actually working on it? Doesn't matter who's working on it. The ROI is you're paying for the task to be completed. So we have a 2-hour response time, meaning you send me an email at 7 and I have till 9 o'clock to say, hey, it's completed, or I need more time. But you know with certainty that you will get a response within 2 hours. So let's say on my end, Jonathan is going to take a day off because he needs a mental health break. No interruption in service. Why? Because the collaborative consumption model allows us to jump right into that assistant box and pick up where we left off. We have clients that are Broadway actors that we submit tapes to. We have nonprofit organizations that we manage their board of directors. We have for-profit small businesses that we manage their inbox, their info, admin inbox of inquiries. And then we also have some personal assistants. Specifically, I have a client out on the West Coast that all we do is schedule her hair appointments every 6 months. She has a specific beautician, she has a specific color, she has a specific timeline of when she wants her hair done. But she's a lawyer with an infant. Well, a 2-year-old now, but an infant. And life can get in the way, but she wants to make sure that her hair appointments are done. It's not that she's lazy, she's smart, wants it done, and hires what she doesn't have the time to do so that she can focus on what matters most: her daughter, her business, her family. So that's what we do. We take that on.
Wow. That's pretty neat. So I actually interviewed Jason for my college class too, because I had to interview somebody that had a small business, that had employees and they had remote employees. So it had to do with small business, with remote employees, and with just kind of the business model around how you manage somebody that's remote working. So how do you manage remote work for yourself and for your team?
Yeah, so one of the ways that I hire folks is you just need to have a pulse and a passion. Everything else could be learned. We're not launching nukes and we're not doing brain surgery, so everything can be learned. The way that I kind of task manage my folks is I let them be human.
Yeah.
With the 2-hour response time, they are all grown adults and they know the tasks that need to be completed. If they want to do that from bed on their laptop or at Starbucks fully dressed up in a gown, by all means, do you, boo. But as long as the task is getting done, I don't need for them to sit in front of the computer all day. We integrate with their businesses. We use a Google platform for chat. We use Asana for task management. And that is how we stay in touch. I'm going to step away from the computer for a few hours. Can somebody cover X client? Absolutely. Go ahead. Yeah. Hey, I have a question about this. My client now wants me to look for all pet-friendly hotels in Southeast Florida. Can somebody help me with this? Absolutely. It's a team effort. We're constantly collaborating, but we also understand that human factors come into play. So Asana for task management, Google Chat for communication, and emails, of course, for kind of correspondence and those bigger type research projects.
Wow. That is really cool. And I really applaud your ability to train to the task. So basically you're allowing somebody to not know exactly what they need to do, but they have the willingness to learn what they need to do. And that's something that a lot of employers don't have today. If you don't have all the right skill sets, they're like, nope, sorry, can't use you. But they have a willingness to learn, but they're like, oh, nope, your resume says you don't have that experience, so we can't hire you here. So I don't like it. I love it. I love that you say, I can train you to what I need you to do. As long as you have the want and the will and the desire to, I can make that happen for you and for me. So I love that you have that capacity to just allow people to learn and grow, because people cannot grow unless someone gives them the opportunity. I mean, they have to have that.
Absolutely. And everything is figure outable. Famous quote by Marie Forleo. Everything is figure outable. So if you don't know, we have Google, we have ChatGPT, and we have each other. Like, reach out and we have each other to kind of grow. One of the things that I love to do with my team is say, you see the breadth of client. We have actors, we have lawyers, we have real estate agents. What do you want to be interested in? Like, where do you see yourself being the most engaged? You want to learn real estate? Great. Here's your client. You're primary on that client. Oh, you want to really dabble in social media? Oh, the Pride organization really needs a marketing person. You can be primary on that. And it just lets them grow and be engaged.
Sure does. That's awesome. Well, we're going to play a quick song, and then we'll be back. We're going to play Mr. Red, White, and Blue by Coffee Anderson, another good supporter of veterans.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, hear the line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana, to the golden coast of California, only he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop. And his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down his life. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. He was the man of the house when he was born. His family is proud but torn. But if you knew him, you would understand. He was raised on how to be brave, just to see the flag still wave. And then he came home with only one hand. 'Cause Mr. Red, White, and Blue lay down his life. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on these front lines. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, he'll pay the ultimate price. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down his life. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. March in line, march in line. Hey. Hey.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds. I am your host, Terry, and we're on MBR where we're giving veterans a voice, and we're giving Jason Nunez, my guest, his voice today. And we were talking about his business, Go Digital Hero, and we were kind of, he was explaining how he hires and how he trains people to fit what he needs for his organization and what he needs for his clients. So I don't know if you had any more to say about that before we went on break or not, but if you do, feel free to elaborate.
So I just wanted to follow up with everything being figure outable. It really is about having that passion to learn. Like you had mentioned, a lot of corporate America, if you would, you have to fill a role. Like you have to fill a checkbox. Been in business for so long, experience with this, experience with that, which then almost they're hiring for your expertise and not for you. The way Go Digital Hero company culture is we're hiring you for you and then training you to do the things we need you to do. And it puts the importance on the human, on the person, to be able to then grow while they're with us and then really feel that ownership on the task that they have assigned to them from their clients.
I love it. I really do. You told me before that you had workers in Puerto Rico and Tennessee and somewhere else, didn't you?
So I have one in New York, two in Florida,
Okay.
two in North Carolina, one in Tennessee.
You've already grown more than when I talked to you last.
Yes. So Puerto Rico moved to New York. So
Okay.
that's where they're at now. But yes, two in Florida, two in North Carolina, and then one in Tennessee.
Well, congratulations. So you support a lot of clients, but where do you find your support? How, you've got all these people working for you and then you're supporting all these people. So then how do you in turn find your support?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that I learned early on is the power of networking. And When I first started my business, I wanted to leverage it as my whole self, everything that I was. So, right after I got the LLC formation of the business, the very first thing is I registered my business with the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce to certify my business as truly LGBT owned.
Hmm.
And I certified with the National Veteran Owned Business Association to truly make my business a service disabled veteran owned business. And then I certified through the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as a certified Hispanic business. Why? Because when you get those certifications, you become relatable, reliable, relatable, and reputable. That's kind of Go Digital Heroes tagline. And reliable because we do the work and we produce the work. And our clients have been with us for 4 years, 3, 4 years now, various clients, because we're reliable, because we're producing that ROI for them and they find value in us.
Right.
We're relatable because we're either LGBT, veteran, or minorities. And that's half of the battle of trying to relate to someone when you're asking them, hey, I want access to your inbox, or I want access to your QuickBooks, or I want access to your share drive. Like, that's a level of trust that you have to be able to
Right.
release and give. And my team is either LGBT, a veteran, or a minority. So all of my clients look the same. That way, there is that level of relatability that we have. And of course, my reputation precedes us. I have done little marketing, and most of it's been word of mouth and referrals. So I'm very grateful and appreciative of my clients and digital heroes who have made those referrals. But by joining the NGLCC, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and NAVOBA, I have found my support in people who are just like me, people who are entrepreneurs, who started with a post-it note and a pen,
Hmm.
um, who are also going through the same struggles. I
Right.
can go through to these networking events, mixers. I was just in Palm Springs a few weeks ago at a summit at the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce Summit, where you literally rub shoulder to shoulder with other entrepreneurs who have the same struggles as you.
Yeah.
Wow, I just had to fire my first person. How did you deal with that?
Yeah.
Then we talk. And oh, have you heard of this program? No, I use these 5 programs to do what you're telling me that one program does. Tell me more. And the support and energy I get is through these chamber memberships. And it's very fulfilling. In light of it's super hard to be able to find a friend and go have coffee if they're not also entrepreneurs, if they're not also CEOs or small business owners, because the lingo and the pain points are a bit different. So I find my support in the chambers.
That makes sense. So, what advice would you give somebody that's wanting to start a business, and maybe they have a little bit of a direction, maybe they don't, but what is the best way, or what would be your advice for them to start something?
Go for it.
I
It's definitely building the plane while you're flying it. You don't know everything about that I've learned through entrepreneurship and through the small business process. It's really A/B testing. One, you have to have the flexibility to learn, try, correct, and fail.
Yeah.
And what I want to encourage business owners who are thinking about starting a business is that you cannot make a mistake in your business. It is just a lesson you learn. And if you start and you go all in on marketing on Instagram, but then nobody's following you, try Facebook. It's a lesson learned. Okay, my target audience is not on Instagram. My target audience is on Facebook. My target audience is on TikTok. My target audience only reads text messages. It depends what your business is. But what I would say is go for it and build the plane. Do not be afraid to build the plane while you're flying it, because once you start flying and you get off the ground, people will want to join in on your journey. I would say 90% of it is constructive criticism, 10% is judgment. So just be ready for that. And there are some humans out there, unfortunately, that want to see you fail, but just use that as motivation. But the 90% wants to offer, hey, I see that you're starting this business. I use this program. It's cheap, it's free. Start there and then you can upgrade. So that would be my advice for someone who's wanting to start a business or not sure where to start.
Yeah.
If it's not sure where to start, I would definitely recommend going to your local chamber of commerce and trying to find somebody who's in your same industry. So if you want to start a consulting company, I would go to the local chamber and find a consultant in there, or maybe even join the chamber so that you can meet consultants, and have them make that referral so that they can share what it is and how they got started to give you ideas on how you can start.
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally. But so my question to you would be, have you considered doing TED Talks and considered like getting on a circuit and talking? Because I think you'd be perfect for it if you haven't done much of it. I think you should do more of it.
So interesting that you should say that. Just earlier today, someone who knew me from one of the chambers, or the NAVOBA, National Veteran Owned Business Association, one of the networking events that I had gone to, they reached out to me and they were like, do you want to be a syndicated guest? And I was like, what's a syndicated guest? It sounds bougie. And they're like, well, you have really good presence and target on small business, entrepreneurship, growth, but then also freedom, diversity, and kind of how that placement of priorities. And I was like, wow, thanks. I've never thought about it. Give me some time to think about it. So we'll see. He's willing to do some storytelling and training.
Yeah.
I'm okay with public speaking, but it's the rapid fire questions on the 30-second blip on CNN or MSNBC that I'm like, but also to that point, I am in the middle of building a course. So that's helping me also get my speaking engagement kind of formulated conversation and presence going too. But I'd definitely be interested in TED Talks if you have a connection.
Well, if I do, I will send them your way, believe me, because I've decided I wanted to do it. I'm not good at it, but I want to do it in some form or fashion. So it's on my bucket list of things. So if I'm in, you're in.
Let's do it.
All right, perfect. I'm going to play a super, super short commercial, and then we're going to come right back. And it's from our one of our sponsors, LDT. Hold on one second. We'll play that, and we'll come right on back with Jason.
Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
Welcome back to Tracer Rounds. I'm with my special guest tonight, Jason, and I'm so happy he's here. You just don't even know how excited I was when he said yes, that he would come, because he's so dynamic of a speaker and of a presenter and just a person in general, a good human, as he is fond of saying. He's a good human, and I really appreciate him. I enjoyed working with him at Southcom when we were assigned together in the chaplain's office when I got to work with the cool kids. And So I'm really happy he's here. But so what would you offer advice-wise to somebody that's a seasoned business owner that's already existing, maybe needs more focus or more direction? What would you suggest for somebody that's already out there, but probably just needs a little extra, like something to get them over the hump?
I would say learn to delegate. There's a lot of ways that there's a lot of people, especially if you're seasoned in the business space and you have those years of experience, that you just want to do it all. And it's so much quicker if I just do it. It's so much quicker if I just do it. I can't teach somebody how to do this or train, but delegate, because
Yes.
you'll find that the more you delegate, the more you grow, because you'll allow space to learn new things and to tackle things that are on your bucket list. But it also instills trust in the folks that you're delegating to, because if you keep doing it all, they're not going to grow. Those entrusted to your care, if you would, they're not going to grow unless you let them grow. Let them make mistakes and learn from them. Let them
Mm-hmm.
experience their own lessons. But you have to let it go, because succession planning is key, especially
Yes.
on the older side of the businesses, but also it's a new perspective. The
Yeah.
job will get done. It won't get done the way you did it. It'll get done a little differently. But I think my seasoned business owners, I'm in 4 years. I'm not saying at all that I'm seasoned. However, if I were to give advice to seasoned business owners, I would say learn the art of delegation,
Yeah.
and trust your people, and you know find your protege, build the mini me, build the mini you,
Right.
um, to come up right behind you.
Well, we've got about 8 minutes left, so I wanted to let people know if you could tell them how to get a hold of you if they're interested in either working for you if you're hiring, or in engaging with and you in the business service that you offer. So can how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of me is godigitalhero.com. And that's my business website. It has my contact information. You can schedule appointments through there. If you want to chat um, off of any of the topics that we had on this podcast, um, or anything else that's kind of interesting to you, or if you're interested in starting a business, please schedule some time with me. Meet jasonnunez.com. So that's meet Jason, JASONNUNEZ, .com, and you'll be able to go directly to my calendar and get a hold of me. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, X, uh, LinkedIn, all under Go Digital Hero.
All the things, right? All the social
Other
things.
things.
So what brings you joy?
One of the things that, as I reflect, and what brings me joy is seeing my clients experience freedom. Kind of circling back to the beginning when I talked about that freedom that I experienced once I was able to be my true and authentic self. Um, Watching my clients succeed and shine brings me a ton of joy. So I have one client, executive director of a nonprofit, that testifies on the Hill in support of military minority veteran advocacy. What brings me joy is watching them on CNBC or any of the news channels advocating for us.
Nice.
Yes, the topic is important: equality, minority veteran care at the VA, things like that. But what brings me joy is knowing that I booked their flight so that they can get to Capitol Hill. I booked
Right.
their hotel. I scheduled that appointment with the congressman, and I was able to facilitate just one small piece of the grander project that the executive director is doing.
So in other words, you've contributed to their success.
I've contributed directly to their success.
That's awesome.
It's kind of that force multiplier because they
Mhm.
keep advocating. So yes.
Yes, I agree. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we close out? We got about 6 minutes, so if there's anything else you wanted to tell the audience about business, about your business, about anything, you're welcome to the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, Terry, thank you. I appreciate the invite again. I appreciate the audience, and I'm looking forward to more engagement. Um, from the business perspective, I would say imposter syndrome is real. So just work through it. You will be afraid, but you're not gonna die. You're not going to launch a nuke. You're not going to do heart surgery, and everything is figure outable. So reach out, be vulnerable, but also confide in yourself and take that next step.
Yeah.
On the personal side, I would say being your true and authentic self is a gift. Being your true and authentic self gives you maximum joy and gives you the freedom to be who you are and do what you want with who you want, where you want it. And I really hope that you give yourself enough grace to really be a hero to yourself. Because once you do that, everything else will fall into place. And then my shameless plug would be on the lookout. I have shared part of my story with you here, but my book is soon to be released towards the end of September 2024. So this year. And it's titled Tragedy to Triumph, A Hero's Journey. And it gives you more of an insight about what the culture was serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but also that triumphant story of someone who experienced the trauma and is now living his best life on the podcast with Terry Lynch. So it's definitely a good read. Go digitalhero.com and you'll be able to see when it releases there. And then also, if you're interested in learning about administrative work, again, go digitalhero.com. My course will be launching at the beginning of 2025. Simple, I do, we do, you do format. It is easy made curriculum, and I believe it'll level up your ability to really hone in on your funnel, hone in on your inbox, and help you succeed in all things that life presents in terms of communication and administrivia.
Wow, that's exciting. I didn't know you were writing a book, because I am going to be buying it. I trust me, I will. So is it going to be digital too, or is it only going to be in print, or how is it going to be distributed?
Yes. We're going to do the pre-launch, pre-sale in September with hardcovers delivered by December, soft digital copies early October. And then I'm also working on an audiobook, and that should be out by early next year.
Nice. And so where's the course available? Is it available on your website, or where's the course going to be, where people can find it and buy into that?
It'll be in godigitalhero.com, and we're going to put some advertisement on there. Right now, we're doing some piloting and making sure that the portal works, and the videos and the worksheets are uploaded and everything is good. But it's coming soon by popular demand.
Well, I love it. And I love that you came on tonight. I'm so excited for your journey and for how you've grown already so far. Because I talked to you, I think, last year for my class, and you've already exceeded leaps and bounds from there. So I appreciate you coming on tonight, and we've got to sign off here. But Jason, thank you so much. And I want anybody and everybody to buy the book. So just go to godigitalhero.com and you can find all the information and details. So Jason, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. And thanks to all the hosts that were on tonight, Grizz and MJ. Thanks all for being here. We'll be talking to you later. Don't forget to come back next Tuesday at 7.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed